Okay, I'm about to start broadcasting. As much as I love you, I really have to be focused for this one, okay, Dolly girl? I mean, and the stuff that you brought over here was a mess in my workspace. So I took it away, okay?
It's okay.
Okay. Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me again today. Hang on just a second. There we go. Whoops. There we go. All right, my name's Dan, in case you don't know that. This is the top of my head. This is the front of my head. You won't have to look too much at either one. This is Daily Art Adventure number 809, Tonal Sketches. Or as I say in the title there online, tonal sketching my way toward a painting. So earlier this evening, I did a thumbnailing my way to painting. So these are my photographic references for this particular job. I have 2 jobs I'm working on. This is a wedding painting, and I only did 3 thumbnail sketches and came up with what I thought was a good sketch. So I have taken the liberty of going ahead. In fact, let's go ahead and move you guys so you get a better view of my work surface. There we go. And hello, Uncle. Yes, I've got someone who wants me to make a video of her. All right.
Excuse me?
So there's my thumbnail, and as I said, I've taken the liberty of doing the sketch ahead of time. All right, so halftone.
How did you know that?
Okay, no, that's not sweetie pie. She wants to steal the show, indeed. Using one of my new brushes, your uncle. So a tonal sketch, which is one of the most valuable tricks you can do, because as we all know, it's all about the values. So I could have called it a value sketch, couldn't I? For some reason this time around I just called it a tonal sketch. So same thing, same idea. And I've decided to work in gouache for both of these sketches. I could do a tonal sketch or a value sketch in any number of different media: pencil, graphite, charcoal, many options. But the gouache probably gives me the highest degree of control, because I can put, where's my photograph? All of a sudden I need it. I can put a tone down and then easily modify it just minutes later by applying another layer of gouache on top of this one. I shouldn't say layer, really. That would be more like acrylics, comes in layers. Gouache, it never stabilizes, of course. So if you put down wet on wet, the new layer revivifies. How about that for a good word? Reactivates the previous layer, so they smoosh together. They're not exactly layers. And honestly, with this this particular gray, sorry. I'm just taking a wild guess as to whether this is the right color or not. So the nice thing about, of course, about a value sketch, tonal sketch, is that I don't care one bit about color. I heard an old expression many years ago. It has stuck with me, and I really think it's true. Color gets the credit, values do the work. It sounds better the other way around. Values do the work, color gets the credit. So most people, when they look, non-artists and possibly even fellow artists, hopefully to a lesser degree, because they should know better. But when a non-artist looks at our paintings, very often, a good painting, they say, "Oh, look at that color." If it's a good painting, if they're impressed in some way by the beautiful painting. And they have the impression, they have the distinct impression that they're being impressed, blown away, whatever expression you want to use, that the color is what is pleasing them. Color gets the credit. But in fact, if it's a good painting, and if it looks like the color is spectacular, it's almost always because, in fact, the values are right. Let me show you my palette that I'm mixing on. This is my oft-used gouache palette, and I have put 3 bits of fresh gouache here, ivory black here. I just happen to have a mid-tone gray. I can't imagine why, or a neutral gray. I can't imagine why I bought such a thing, but there it is. That's there, and then white here. So even though you can use gouache, or you can as I said, revivify it, but just by spraying water on it. It's a lot more. It's a lot less work just to go ahead and put out some fresh right out of the tube. Whoops. That was a whoops, in case you wondered. When I said whoops, that meant wrong color, wrong value. So this is the shady side of a red brick building. Okay, here's my primary reference, and I'm thinking that's at least a 7 value on a 0 to 10 grayscale. Who knows if that's really accurate? Who knows if I nailed that, so to speak? But it's easily changed in subsequent layers, so that's why gouache is such an easy medium to work with. Very friendly. If you haven't caught some of James Gurney broadcasts, James Gurney of Dinotopia fan, famous illustrator. I think he would own Big Saw. I mean, he's a very well-rounded artist. So if he were to say to me, "No, I'm not an illustrator. I'm an artist," I'd go, "Okay, that's fair enough." I meant no harm. But anyway, his book Dinotopia is definitely a illustration job. Masterful illustrator, and he does a number of broadcasts in which he does paintings about this size, 4x5, 5x6 inches, something like that. Plein air paintings in gouache, and it's quite the delightful little clinic in what can be done with gouache paints. The downside about gouache, perhaps I should say one of the downsides about gouache, is that it's never stable. So it has to be framed. If it's going to be displayed, it has to be framed behind glass. I'm sure that somebody somewhere has played around with spraying enough fixatives and varnishes on. I'm sure you can do that as well. But traditionally, gouache goes behind glass like watercolor. So there's another gouache painter, French, Lalouet, and I'm afraid I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. That's my ignorant American attempt to pronounce Lalouie, I think. Lalouie, I think, Lalouie, I think, and he's one of those, I think, safe to say, fair to say, he's one of those famous rainy Paris street scenes, rainy and snowy Paris street scenes from a century ago, early 1900s. And again, I mention him because I believe most of his work is done in gouache. So if you want to see some really spectacular gouache, look up Lalouet. Are you leaving? Sorry, I'm not very exciting at the moment.
You are.
I am, eh?
And this. What happened to your other painting?
This one?
Oh.
It's right over there, waiting for me to get to it. So I'm going to try to indicate fall foliage here. You really do work out a lot of fundamental issues when you do tonal sketch.
Mm-hmm.
I have to show you, I'm deciding, so which is lighter, which is darker, blue sky or orange fall leaves with sun shining on it, right? There's not a simple answer to that question. I do not know which is lighter. I'd have to look at the photograph. What do you think?
I think it's leaves.
Which is lighter, blue sky or orange leaves with sun shining on them?
Probably.
What do you think?
Leaves.
Oh, probably orange leaves. I think you're right. I think that's what I would guess too. Once again, I'm using the brand new brushes. They just happen to be right here. Uncle 60. I hadn't even put them away yet. And all of a sudden, I find myself wanting the very thing that I received in the mail just this morning from you. Thank you again so much.
Because these are nice paintbrushes.
They are nice paintbrushes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Wonder how long it'll be before I ruin them and make them look like all my other ones.
Yeah. I'll be
Oops.
sad then.
What just fell? Was that yours or mine?
It's not
Oh,
much.
the board.
It's
Yeah.
not the board. Wow, that's a pretty good painting.
Pretty quick, huh?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that after I put this layer of gray down, that I'll still be able to see my pencil lines through there. I think I can.
I think I can. I think I can.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Put my arm right in your way when I'm swishing my brushes over there. Sorry about that.
Because who exactly are you talking to?
I'm talking to Uncle 60, Horatio, and Jane Grayson. Hello, Jane. The brushes are doing a magnificent job, indeed.
Is Uncle 60 the guy that sent you these brushes?
Yes, he's the guy that sent me these brushes. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. He must be nice.
He must be nice. All right, now, without question, the focal point of this painting, of course, is bride and groom. That's pretty obvious, see? Again, here's the little tiny photograph I'm working from. I can print out, when I do the real painting, I have a larger version of this that I can either look at on my phone or a screen or print out. I'll probably print it out. Perhaps even print it out on photo paper. So this is Kelly and Daniel. Kelly is the sister of my buddy William. who goes by Buddy. That came out funny. Hello, Buddy, if by any chance you're listening. Nice to have you on board, as always. I will tell you, one of the temptations that I face in doing some little thing like this is just getting bogged down and doing too much. This is, after all, just a tonal study. It doesn't need to be a masterpiece. I think most of you artists can relate to that. You know, how much work do you do? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's easy to get carried away and do too much. So, in fact, I'm going to try not to do that.
There's no subscribers yet.
Nobody's watching, not very many people watching yet.
Oh.
Oh, no subscribers, is that what you said?
Yeah. I do videos with my mom's phone.
Do you?
Yeah. And I try to get on YouTube. I've always wanted to be on YouTube.
I will probably actually cheat on this gouache sketch by coming in here. Whoops! I just blossomed into her hair there. That was a mistake. We just lost her whole hair. Oh, and blossomed into her dress. Oh well. Blossoming happening all over the place. I'll probably come in here and do some black pencil, especially since I actually use pencil. All right, now it's time for me to start making corrections and adjustments. Again, the beauty of doing a value sketch is you can change your mind, which I'm going to start doing right now. First of all, the shadow. Their shadow can be darker. And believe it or not, when I first painted this building, I thought it was so dark. I really did. I thought I'm probably gonna have to lighten that. That's honestly what I thought. But here I am, doing quite the opposite.
Old and mature.
Darkening it. Now there's some subtleties, of course, that I'm not going to try to probably emulate very much in this sketch, and that is a principle like we don't want to paint the flat side of a building all the same color, right? Even though this is completely in the shade, we want it to either fade from dark to light or light to dark, one or the other. I will give that some thought. I'll try to indicate it roughly, but I probably won't sweat over it too much.
When I'm a grown-up, will you still be painting?
When you're grown up?
Yeah.
Maybe.
You're
The Lord
going to be
gives me a good long life.
65.
Since you're 7, right? So let's say in 20 years, in 20 years you'll be 27 and I will be 85.
Oh,
So that's pretty old.
What about when I'm...
20?
No, what about when I'm 98?
Oh, when you're 98, I'll be watching from heaven.
No. What about when I'm 36?
Yeah, when you're 36, I'll be probably gone.
My favorite grandpa.
Your only grandpa, huh?
My favorite grandpa.
Your favorite grandpa that
before my eyes.
flashing before your eyes. You funny kid.
Why is that all gray?
I'm getting impatient now, ladies and gentlemen. That's all there's to it. I'm just saying, oh, to heck with this. I'm tired of this.
I can see that. But you must keep control because good artists don't just smack out and...
That's right. Good artists don't quit, do they?
Yeah.
I hope I'm a good artist today.
Yes, you are. You're a very good artist. Artistic. You're very artistic. Or, never mind.
Okay, I'm going to put some little buttons on this guy.
Buttons? Wait, what is the color for the buttons? I hope it's
White.
White. Perfect.
And a belt buckle.
Crazy, bro. Crazy. Is that the little That's the little boy.
Well, it doesn't look to me like a... Does art quite good art sometimes. That's right. I've got my own built-in critic here.
Who's a critic?
Somebody who's good at evaluating stuff.
Is
Like
that
art.
me?
Yeah.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's probably you.
Oh, thank you. Why do you have those black things in your ears?
That's so I can hear what my voice is sounding like. That makes sure that my voice doesn't suddenly disappear.
Sorry, there's
All right,
some-
tell you what I'm going to do real quick before I finish. As I finish here, I'm just going to do some real quick scribbling. Oh, it doesn't go on gouache quite as well. I would have thought this pencil would really do a good job on gouache. Not so. Kind of smooshes over it. So
Smooshy, smooshy. Oh, that. I mean, you're a good artist and all, but that sort of doesn't fit. A skinny line inside of a fat line.
yep. Oh, I barely painted her dress, did I?
That was just the snappy thing again.
Yeah.
It keeps on falling down. Becca, guess what?
What?
I'm gonna get a dog for my birthday.
I think so, huh?
Yeah.
I think that may be, but not this birthday. I don't think so.
I think I am. Well,
Okay,
I
final
might-
touches maybe.
I
Some thick
might,
white stuff.
I might be back with my own.
All right, I'm going to call that good enough, even though I'm not thrilled with it. I'll come back and visit that maybe without you later, but I want to move on to the other one because I do indeed have two. This one's a little more difficult, perhaps. Here is the photograph that I'm painting. Great photograph, not a great painting. So I've made a number of modifications, as you perhaps watched earlier. Oh, she has plenty of rants of her own, believe me.
Wait. Did anyone comment me?
Yeah, somebody did comment you.
Yay. Whoever that was, I want to thank them. What's your name?
Uncle 60.
Thank you, Uncle Steve.
He's the man who sent me all these brushes today.
Uncle Steve.
What do you say about that?
Ooh.
Did you say thank you?
Thank you. I guess I said thank you.
Yeah. I already said thank you, but you can say thank you too for me.
Oh, crackling. That was just me crackling again. Whoa.
Big cloud.
I'll be back tomorrow.
Okay.
Wait, if I do a video, which I probably will. Hey, are you going to practice your trumpet?
I am.
Okay. That's a nice piece of painting. Oh, that's a nice cloudy painting. Saturday in the park. I took away the fourth letter line. It was a cloudy day in the park, and I was singing.
So for those of you who missed this thumbnail earlier, this discovery of sun rays was a completely serendipitous accident. I thought I was going to draw clouds, wispy clouds, and I took my eraser and made some parallel slashes, and all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, sun rays. It's completely accidental. Strange when that happens.
Oh no.
So I've taken out the sun rays. I'm going to paint them right on top of everything else that I'm doing. I hope that'll work.
My wobbly tooth is going to fall out tonight.
Yes, your tooth is almost certain to fall out tonight.
Yeah. Just in case the people know it's a night.
Yep.
I'll see you tomorrow. Because I'm going to go.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone. Lake. That was Lake. She says bye-bye. Bye, sweetie. There, you got a generous dose of Lake. She is a character, as you can tell. They certainly do grow up way too quickly. Of course, this is our second go-round, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Her mom and dad live with us too, so we're not raising grandchildren on our own, but we certainly are raising grandchildren. And loving it. in so many ways, painting is so much easier than drawing. Because with a brush with paint on it, you get a dimensionality. You know, I'm really getting tired of reaching way across, you guys. Doing some of my brush. Let's make a change here. You know, with drawing, all you get is a line, and if you want to do shading, you have to do you have to work at it. In a brush, you can make shading and volume with a single stroke. Boy, it's quite the luxury. Maybe you can tell I've done a whole lot more drawing than painting in my life. Well, I don't know, that might be evening out by now. I've been doing more painting for the last 15 or 16 years, so maybe it's evening out. All right, now let's see, will my client be able to recognize this as her photo, her valley? I'm wondering if in this particular commission, I'm wondering if I might send her, instead of doing color sketches next in the continuation in this standard, thumbnail first, tonal sketch second, color sketch third would be the normal progression. But I'm wondering if in this case, if I'm nervous about, will she really go for this kind of thing? I'm wondering if I should send her the grayscale. I don't know, I'm thinking out loud. Am I on camera? Yeah. I want to paint this edge instead of just using the paper. By the way, I'm doing all these renderings, not drawing. I'm painting on 140-pound watercolors. So pretty simple solution. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy at all about this particular operation. I told you I put out a daub of neutral gray gouache and black and white. Well, it turns out I'm using the daub of gray a whole lot more than anything else. So how about that? It really has turned into a time saver to have I'd say mid-tone. It's really not mid-tone. Looking at it, it's about a number 7 or 8, which is quite dark, but it's actually saved me quite a bit of time, mixing, because it turns out it's a lot closer to the color I want than. All right, so how does that look? All right, some good questions happening here. Yes, I've taught her. Believe me, the lake is fully capable of ranting all by herself. She'll be 6, 7 in a week. Yep. She's about to lose her 5th tooth. She has more gaps than teeth. How did you post those single dual pictures to YouTube the other day? Uncle 60. Oh, you can only post videos. Really? You had a question to that effect earlier, didn't you? I tried to answer that question. Evidently, I failed. When you go to the community page, okay, hang on. There's a button called, when you go to YouTube page, there's a button called Community, right? And one of the options there's a little camera symbol. Huh. Must be something different happening in your account. It's strange. Because it's real obvious, you know what the camera symbol means. Photograph, right? I want to post a photo. Look again. I'm quite sure everybody has that capability. I said earlier, when I truly stumbled on this sun rays idea, it's kind of a dangerous concept, because if you don't really pull it off well, which I'm not at all sure I'm going to be able to do, it really comes off corny, cartoony, Same thing is true with rainbow in a painting. Really hard to pull that off. In fact, I don't think I've ever tried to paint a rainbow in a painting ever, and probably never will. But if I were going to do such a thing, I would certainly use an airbrush. I wouldn't dream of doing it without using an airbrush. So there, I've seen a lot of other people try such things, and I did not feel like their attempts were very successful. And sun rays, I pretty close to that, right? Kind of dangerous, because it's just, you're trying to pull off. Now, of course, with oil paints, I have way more control, way more subtlety than I can accomplish here in gouache. But I want to get close and see if I think that the sun ray idea is even a good one. So. To tell you the truth, I am not completely convinced. Not convinced that that's a killer idea. Okay, forgive me for just a minute. I'm going to make some bad noise. I'm going to pick up my hair dryer and dry this real quickly. Hang on, bear with me just a minute. today. I wonder if I have in my little drawer here. Well, I got something that might work. Got a little piece of sandpaper, the kind used to sharpen pencils with. And I'm experimenting now. I may even grab a pastel pencil here in a little bit, just so that I can try to achieve a little. I could work and work and work with brushes, of course, to make this much more finesse, but I don't want to waste time doing something if I can do it faster way. That's the name of the game here. Knock this thing out. But before we resort to that, all of this up here should be just pretty much dazzlingly white, I think. Where this rays of sun is coming from. Does that make sense? Here's another thought. If I give this a few minutes to dry, of course, which won't take long, and then possibly spray it with a workable fixative, and then do some pastels. Now my rays have gotten crooked, and that will kill the illusion about as fast as anything. Strange. It's one of those days where the sun rays bent, I don't know if you've ever seen that. Hey, speaking of which, you know what? I have seen, by the way, I just had as soon as I said that, I thought, wait a minute. I have seen sun rays bend. You wonder how on earth. I can describe it for you. It's a pretty rare phenomenon, but I've seen it at least once in my life. Imagine a very dramatic sunset with a clouds silhouetted strongly against the sun, the sunset. Those clouds create shadows, and the shadows of those clouds extend eastward, right? Because the sun is setting in the west, so the shadows of those clouds extend eastward away from the sunset. And at least one time I saw those shadows as I stood on the ground and looked up at them. They were so parallel that they appeared to converge as they approached the eastern horizon. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but got it? So I'm looking the opposite way of the sunset, and the shadows of the clouds that were in front of the sun seemed to converge. Pretty strange. Oh, on your tablet, no community access. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I'm doing the community access thing for what it's worth. I am doing that on my desktop, on my old-fashioned iMac. Still my favorite computer by far. It's old, but it does the job. I'm doing just a little bit of scribbling there. All right, tell you what, I think I'm going to let it go with this. I'm going to keep these little bits of sandpaper. You never know, I want to do that again. Let's peel the edges. It's always kind of exciting, a little bit like Christmas, to peel the masking off these paintings that you've masked like this, because it gives that clean edge, and all of a sudden everything looks a lot better. Frankly, I'm not terribly pleased with either one of my tonal sketches. I'm sort of thinking, okay, that's good enough, they'll do the job. It's good enough. And if I feel fussy about it, hey, you know what I'll actually do? I'll tell you, I didn't think about this till right now. I will actually scan both of these into my computer. And you know where this is going, right? Da-da-da-da-da. Photoshop to the rescue. Yes, sirree. There. So there's... And I'm looking at is, will that work? I think it will. Tonally, compositionally. Now let's do the same thing to this one just for fun before we call it a day. My goodness, it's almost 10 o'clock at night. 10 o'clock at night where I am. Wherever you are. Hope you're having a good day or good night. We had our Dutch friend with us, Monique, from the Netherlands earlier today. I think she's long since gone to bed. It must have been late. The last time we were here, she was with us. Come to think of it. All right, let's see how that looks. Yeah, see, it does look somewhat better. And that is almost enough to give my client, you know, an impression. I think she'll be able to. I do kind of like the idea of fixative on top of this. But as I said, my latest revelation is like, wait a minute, to heck with all this. Let's do it in Photoshop. I can make this thing sizzle in Photoshop. And then we'll actually, of course, use the Photoshopped image to do my next sketch. I feel like, let me paint a little bit. I feel like this area in here is a little bit too light. So hang on. So of course I've already pulled off the mask, right? So now I have to be careful. And speaking of which, I just drip to drop to drip. Let's darken this a little bit and see if that works better. Yeah, that's better. Just the edge of that, catching that. Well, I will say this for it. It's a whole lot more dramatic, which is, of course, one good word for it. A whole lot more dramatic than this, right? Beautiful place, not a great painting. This, I have Albert Bierstadted it to turn him into a verb. And with that, I'm going to call it a night. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for your company. Always fun to have you. And I actually have some other stuff I have to work on maybe tomorrow, so hopefully I'll broadcast again tomorrow. Have a good night. Love y'all. Bye.